Well, I want to welcome everyone to today's Sunriver U SROA Board Candidate Forum. Today we have for you a clock ringing that it's 4 o'clock, time to start. And we have 5 of our 6 candidates here. And if our 6th candidate shows up, we'll get them right in here. So we're going to start today with each candidate having a 2-minute opportunity to talk about themselves and why they're running. And then we'll go into a question answer time. If you have a question you would like us to address, please type it in the chat to Sunriver U. I'm Gwen Gamble, and I'm here today representing Sunriver U and working as the moderator for this event. We're going to go through the candidates. I'll introduce each one in alphabetical order by last name, and then we'll start our question round. So we are going to start today with Paul Coughlin. Paul.
Great to be here. This is my time to speak about myself, correct? Yeah, okay. So I'm Paul Coughlin. We have vacationed in Sunriver for 10 years before we moved here. We've lived here for 5 years. Love this place immensely. A little bit about my background. I'm a former newspaper editor, former reporter. I've worked for a Chamber of Commerce off and on for 15 years. So I've dealt with large boards, 23-member boards. I know how organizations work and how things get done. One of the things that we would say at the Chamber is that chambers do things that people think just happen. And it's definitely not the case. A place like Sunriver is a place where it's intentional, and that is proven by the amazing livability. Something that I really want to keep going here, protect that livability and expand it as well. I'm also the president and founder of an anti-bullying organization called the Protectors, where we work with public schools, private schools, and sometimes workplaces. Our claim to fame is that we've helped over 7,000 kids publicly apologize, excuse me, for bullying and related behavior during the presentation. So it's great to be here in Sunriver. Love this place, want to do my part. And I want to thank everyone for taking the time to be part of this conversation.
Okay, thank you very much, Paul. We're going to move on to Juliana Hayes. Juliana, please feel free to tell us about yourself.
I'm Juliana Hayes. I am born and raised in Eugene, Oregon, and I've been going to Sunriver my whole life. And my husband and I were lucky enough to purchase our home there about 4 years ago, where we spend a lot of time of our summers, Thanksgiving, and winter breaks up there. We do live in Marin County, California, which is in the Bay Area, but my true heart is definitely in Oregon. I am a mom of 3 small boys who love Sunriver maybe even more than I do. I'm currently a vice president of finance at Twitter. I've worked in the tech industry for the last 2 decades and have a lot of experience with private boards and the board that I support there specifically. My husband and I, love Sunriver. We were lucky enough to buy our place as our second home, which is also where we do intend to retire as well when that day falls upon us. So it's a long-term investment for us, but we really love our time there. I am running for the board because I love Sunriver. I want to be more involved in the community, spend more of my time making Sunriver, or I should say, keeping Sunriver such a special place. And my focus will really be around making Sunriver even more accessible to working families. I think we're going to have more and more time there as companies move to be more remote. And so my hope is that not only for my family, but for many others, Sunriver blossoms into more of a short-term vacation spot to hopefully a longer term being able to work remotely in Sunriver.
Okay, thank you very much, Juliana. And next we're going to hear from Rick Comras. Rick?
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Rick Comras. I'm running for the Sunriver Board of Directors, of course. Thank you all for viewing today. I'd like to congratulate the other candidates for going through this process. My wife and I have been coming to Sunriver for about 35 years. We've owned a house here for about 10 years, and we recently moved here. So recently that my wife is unpacking boxes as we speak. And this is a great forum for me because I'm now not unpacking boxes. But I enjoy Sunriver. We've come here. We enjoy being here with our kids and grandkids. And I'm applying, so I help keep Sunriver the pristine place it is and help it be successful. I just recently retired from my job where I was the administrator from the Sonic Grand Lodge, where I was involved in many wills and trusts, remodeling of our retirement facility, handle all contracts, and took care of fraternal and business issues for over 100 lodges and 6,000 members throughout the state. Before that, I worked for the city of Portland for 27 years for the Bureau of Environmental Services. And before that, I worked for PGE at the Boardman coal fire plant and at the Trojan plant before it closed in 1993. I'm anxious to participate in things going on in Sunriver, and as I said, to make it help and improve. And I see it as a successful place now. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rick. And now we're moving on to Keith Mobley. Keith?
Thank you. Good to be here, and I appreciate the excellent candidates for the board. I'm currently completing a 3-year term, and I would like to continue. I'm also a member of the Finance Committee, where I serve as Assistant Treasurer behind Gerhard Bienen as the Treasurer and Chair of the Finance Committee. I'm also a member of the Telecommunications Task Force and served for 1 year as the SROA President. During my year as President, we successfully searched for a new general manager, completed the Abbott Beaver Circles and the tunnel, started work on the North Pool, and approved the continuation of the Owner Enrichment Committee. During my active lawyer years, I represented an intergovernmental agency that created a fiber loop around the Dalles that led to Google building its first data center there. And more recently, the city of Maupin became the owner of a fiber to the premises system that is providing better service at lower cost than is available in Portland. I'd like to continue to use what I learned as a telecommunications advocate for the benefit of Sunriver owners. My wife, Diane, our dog, Bella, and I live in Duffer, so we are among the 80% of Sunriver owners who are not full-time residents. We have been visiting Sunriver for at least 40 years and are now pleased and proud to be owners. Our favorite amenities are the Deschutes River for kayaking and the bike trails for our new e-bikes. Enjoying those very much. We have loved Sunriver, continue to love it, and would like to continue to serve.
Thank you very much, Keith. And now we'll hear from Brad Skinner. Is Brad available? Oh, when Brad comes back, we'll get him on. He was here, and I think he moved from his car and is moving into his house setting situation. So all of you wonderful citizens and homeowners of Sunriver, who are here today, if you have a question you would like to have our candidates answer, please send it to me via the chat options and just send it to Sunriver U, and I will be able to read it and ask the question of the candidates. And please, this is your time to find out what's important to you and see how our candidates feel about them. And we're going to start off with a really hot topic. What's your position on building a new recycling center? And we're going to start with Paul. And you have 1 minute.
1 minute, very good. Yes. Well, It definitely needs to be improved. Been using the current one, often cramped, difficult sometimes to get into parking. There's been a few times when parking, frankly, has been a bit dangerous. Too many people crossing over each other, moving into different places, and then also too, stuff not going in the right place, to put it mildly. So I'm for the improvement for the recycle area, and yeah, all in support of it.
Okay, thank you very much, Paul. Juliana?
I would echo a lot of what Paul just said. I am very supportive of a new recycle center. We rent our place when we're not there. And the other thing I'm really excited about is the curbside recycling, mostly because Sunriver is made to be such a pristine environmental place. And I really think we need to do our part to make sure that we also support recycling. And right now, the owners might take the responsibility to take recycling elsewhere, but I'm very doubtful any of our renters have done that. So I'm very supportive of any improvement we make for the recycling of Sunriver, and definitely the recycling center is a great place to start.
Okay, thank you so much. And Keith? Oh, no, I'm sorry, Rick.
I echo the other candidates. I strongly support the recycling center. I was surprised when we've been here that wasn't enough to recycle. And I think it will really help improve and keep Sunriver very clean. Thank you.
Okay, and we're going to finish this question round, and then we'll go back to Brad. Brad Skinner's back. So Keith, what's your take on the new recycling center?
This has been an issue for, well, all the time I've been on the board. And I think it was an issue for some time before that. We thought there was going to be an easy solution. Turned out that there were very strong opinions regarding whether we needed to improve the recycling situation at Sunriver. I am very pleased with the work done by the committee that was appointed to address this issue. They spent many hours, listened to all of the points of view. The various points of view were well represented, I think, on that committee. And the board has now taken action to put the question before us owners about whether or not we want to go forward with the recycling center and its in its proposed form. And my recommendation to our owners is vote yes.
Okay, thank you very much. And now we have Brad Skinner back. Is he here? Okay, Brad, if you would like to, I'm going to give you your 2 minutes to tell us about yourself.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, but we don't see you.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm trying to take it off. It's just bizarre. My power cord, my USB would not charge my phone out there.
Oh no.
Oh,
This is wonderful. I've never had this problem with my regular.
But we can hear you, Brad.
I can hear you just fine. So why don't
Okay,
you tell us about your time in Sunriver?
sure.
And
I'll
why-
do that quick. I'll do that quickly. And again, I apologize to everyone. My wife and I moved here about 2017. We built a home. We moved from Connecticut. We had been here with our children about 9 different times throughout our marriage, and just decided it'd be a great place to live. So we built a home and have been here since. I ran for the board the next year at the encouragement of my neighbors, and I've been on the board for that past 3 years, and also I was president of the board this last calendar year. So in terms of why I'm running, I just want to continue to do the things that we have been working on. We probably have 8 or 9 initiatives. Many of them are in the Scene magazine, if you want to see that in my message. So I'll cut it off there.
Okay. And our first question that people have been responding to is, what is your position on building a new recycling center? And it's your turn to answer that.
Okay. Well, my position is, first off, the board had a pretty healthy discussion about this subject. Initially, three of us decided that we wanted to take a little more time. The majority of the board decided they wanted to proceed. So we have put the question in front of the owners. I personally think I'm going to vote for it. I believe the recycling center looks like heck today. The new one will be a greater improvement in terms of noise reduction, as well as just the overall design. Again, the voters will decide. At the end of probably 10 years, we could reuse the building for some other purpose. And again, I don't see, I mean, some people are just opposed to it. They want a side yard pickup. As a result of the task force, we're getting side yard pickup.
Okay,
So,
and that's your minute.
okay, all right.
So now we're going on to our next question, which some of you answered in your introduction. And that is, how much time do you spend in Sunriver in a year? And today, this question goes to Juliana first.
You guys hear me okay? Yeah. So in the past, we had been spending about 5 to 6 weeks in Sunriver. My family is all in Portland, and so the grandparents come over, my sister and cousins, and we have some good summertime, and then we do Thanksgiving and winter break. My company has told us recently we are allowed to work from anywhere, so I'm very excited to be spending 5 weeks this summer, including our weeks in the summertime. So ideally this year and going forward, it will be closer to 8 to 10 weeks a year.
Okay, and Rick?
Yes, hi.
Hi, how much time do you spend in Sunriver?
Well, before we moved here full-time, it was 4 to 5 weeks a year, but as I said, this week, we have just moved here full-time, so it'll be almost 100%, and I'm glad we're here. Thank you.
Thank you. And Keith?
About a week, a month, come up for the board meetings, and sometimes other opportunities present themselves. We are fortunate to have a condo in Newport, and so we spend some time at the beach, some time in Sunriver, and the rest in Dufur.
Okay, thank you. And Brad, how much time do you spend in Sunriver?
Well, COVID about all year, except for about 2 weeks. Usually going forward now, I would think probably, 10 months, full time. And by the way, Gwen, it says that you keep my video on hold. Is that possible? Now I've lost your sound.
It was me, my
Oh.
daughter.
Oh, okay, so, but now I can take it
work-
off.
On the
Okay.
video preview.
Okay, I still cannot take my video off. It says you're holding it.
Okay, I'm gonna try right here. No, give it another try.
Okay, I'll give it another try. It still says you're holding it, so it doesn't matter. It's, it's the wonders of electronics.
It's amazing. Well, I have some admin that I've messaged and they're working on that for us. Okay.
Okay,
Brett?
thanks.
So the solution's coming.
All right.
And Paul, you get to tell us a bit about how much time you spend in Sunriver.
Thank you. We never leave. We're like the squirrels. We're just here all the time. And with the work that I do travel from time to time, but between me and my wife, we're pretty much here almost all the time.
All right. Thank you. So the next question, and we'll be starting with Rick this time. What improvements or upgrades do you see as opportunities to support the full-time residents? So improvements and upgrades for full-time residents.
One upgrade that's near and dear to my heart, it was mentioned before. Right now, going into this meeting, I'm having bandwidth issues through my connection with Ben broadband. So I know there's work being done right now. I see it as I drive around Sunriver, but we really need to improve the bandwidth to each home. We need to improve the cell phone reception, and I know there's talk about adding a tower here. But then there's a trade-off of not having a tower that you can actually see. You want to make it good for everybody who lives here. One of the things I would do too is I've been through the design manual many times, and it's very confusing. I applaud those who wrote it in the first place, because I've had to rewrite manuals myself, my particular office manual, but I think it's due for a rewrite, and I think that should be done soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Brad, what improvements or upgrades do you see in Sunriver for the residents?
Well, I think there's a number that are already occurring. Certainly the members pool will help when it opens next weekend. Certainly Mary McCallum Park, we've been working on that last year, and this year we'll make even more substantial improvements, and that'll be for owners only. You know, again, there's a mixed feeling about recycling center, but the owners will decide that. Telecommunications, as Rick talked about, that's very important, and I think we're going to have some options there that we can present shortly. So I think those four major things, plus overall just working together to improve the ambiance of Sunriver by enforcement of our rules and education of visitors. All of those will continue to help.
Okay, thank you, Brad. Paul?
Bike paths, a big fan of our bike paths, former bicycle racer. I've been on every bike path here in Sunriver. They are fantastic, but they could be safer. There was a member of the board who was greatly injured on the bike path, and I think that could have been avoided. I think that if we were to clean our bike paths more regularly, you can't do much during a storm, for example, but afterward, there's no reason in most places, most of the time, there should be standing water that turns to ice. There's ways we can improve our bike paths that are not very expensive to make them better for owners, renters, and others. I mean, there's many people afraid, not about many, but there are some people who will not go on the bike paths at a certain time of year for worry of injury. And I think that's unfortunate in a beautiful place like this. Another thing I would think about would be fire abatement. At this unique time in US history, world history, particularly here in Central Oregon, that's a real issue. It could conceivably take us out. I think we need to look more closely at fire abatement
That's your minute,
as well.
Paul. Thank you.
I'm done. Yeah.
Juliana?
You know, I'm so excited about the members pool. I think that's one of the biggest things Sunriver's done in a long time. My husband was joking. I was sending my kids letters to Santa and I didn't write North Pole. I wrote North Pool because it's on my brain. But so that was the biggest thing for my family. I think the recycle center, I'm pretty passionate about. I really think that that's just something that would benefit all of Sunriver and again, help protect the amazing environment we have. I echo what Paul says about fire abatement. You know, I'm in Northern California. I can tell you it's scary and real. And I think sadly coming for Oregon and with record droughts, it's just something that, you know, Sunriver, I think we really need to address and we need to address it now. And then another thing I would love to see improved is more kind of tween parks or opportunities, something perhaps like a bike park or something for the teenagers in my family. My nephew, I think, has outgrown Fort Rock Park, although it's one of my favorite places. So that's something else I would love us to start thinking about.
Okay, thank you. Everybody got a turn to answer that question, correct? Just making sure my tracking system is good old 3x5 cards. All right. The next thing I want to say is for all of our homeowners who are listening in, this is for you. And please type us up any questions you have, type them to Sunriver U in the chat session. And we want to make sure we're addressing any specific issues or concerns you have. So the next question, and we will be starting with Keith. The question is education and enforcement of rules. We know that the education for tourists has been worked on in this last year. What can realistically happen as far as enforcement, particularly with bike rules and river access?
We have had some excellent work done. Another committee that has addressed those issues. It was something that was started by the service district folks, brought to our attention as a need, and it evolved into something larger that does have a very strong focus on education and bringing to the attention of those who visit Sunriver the importance of following the rules. It's a great place. It'll continue to be a great place, but there is always a tendency in this life of ours to see things go downhill unless there are very strong, conscientious efforts to uphold standards, to enforce rules, and the places where the message can be put out are primarily through the scene, through our communications efforts, through our telecommunications systems. We need to do as much of that as we can.
Okay, thank you. Brad, do you have any
I
thoughts
think Keith,
on the enforcement?
yeah,
in
I think
education?
Keith started or was discussing some of the things that are happening. Certainly, we have consensus with the bike patrol, with Corey, with Chief Darling. The Citizens Patrol is being activated and being trained. Bike patrol, I think we're at full force now, maybe one more. But everyone understands that it's important not only to warn people, but to issue citations. We have, and the Citizens Patrol, the new changes that the board made concerning river access. There's huge signs at Harper Bridge now. There's also signs, if you might notice, around the Cardinal Landing Bridge, making it very clear you can't stop, you can't stand, you can't park to take out watercraft. And we will have people there enforcing it all summer long. So it's this enforcement, but again, it's like everything else. We rely on all of us as owners to call in when we see violations that are onerous. We're not there to be. Sorry.
Thank you. This is really hard. Okay, Paul, would you like to respond to the education and enforcement of the rules, pathway and riverfront access?
Thank you. This is an issue that we have taken on the Covenants Committee, as others know, and there was a good amount of discussion with it. The use of signage has been pretty noticeable throughout Sunriver, particularly when it comes to the Chutes River access. And that was, there was a lot of discussion on that front. And in order to keep our livability going, in order for people who particularly living on the Deschutes area or riverfront rather, to enjoy themselves more and not have so much congestion in their neighborhoods. And one of the things too about that is the erosion that is taking place by Cardinal Landing. It doesn't take much to see that and realize, my goodness, people are literally kind of like beavers wearing that portion out. And one thing that often gets lost in the conversation, it's one thing for it to be a nuisance. It's another thing for us to have to spend a lot of money to fix that area. So these ordinances are extremely important.
That minute and that question is
yeah,
valuable. All right, Juliana.
I think we can do more on education here. A lot of the things that we use, like the scene, are not available to renters. And I'm just curious what the breakdown is between homeowners and renters or visitors on some of these rules. I think we could do a lot more around whether it's requiring people to rent their home. You know, if Sunriver came up with a cute poster with all the rules with graphics, like I know they're good at doing, we could have everyone post that in rental homes and or include those rules and abiding by those rules in rental agreements. So I do think there's more we can do just up front to make sure visitors understand how seriously we take all these rules. And then I've been really happy to see, especially on the bike trails in the summer, the bike patrol, checking in with people. I've seen them stop people who don't have helmets on their kids. I've seen them stop those who don't walk their bikes through the tunnels. And so while I know it might be challenging to have, patrol people on the bike paths and at the water landings, it might be something that we look at,
Okay.
especially during our busy times.
Thank you, Juliana. This is okay. Rick, your turn.
Yeah, hi there. Thank you.
Hi. Mhm.
Yes, I echo what the other candidates have said about the signage, bike patrol, and citizens patrol. But also, although I live here 100% now, I did rent my house here at one time. And I find that the people that manage, or the management companies, they sometimes do not enforce anything. And I've had to have my full-time residents give me a call that lived across the street and say, hey, you got 8 cars parked in your driveway. There's 15 people there. And so I would have to call the management company for them to enforce anything. So there is a good relationship between full-time people here and people who rent. And I think part of it, that the people who rent, the rules have to be given to them and they have to be enforced. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. This next round, we're going to start with Brad. And once again, if you have a question, please type it in the chat to Sunriver U and we'll make sure it gets asked. Brad, what factors would you consider when making a decision that might be sensitive to your friends or neighbors?
Well, I think early on when I joined the board, we all adopted a methodology for processing issues, and that is to be non-emotional, to look at our mission statement on the wall, which is to reaffirm that Sunriver should be a premier residential and resort community, protecting our quality of life, and at the same time our natural environment, and at the same time enhancing property values. And if you just stick to the mission statement, plus be very non-emotional, look at facts and data, ask the question, who's benefiting from whatever request is being made? Is it just one owner? Is it a group of owners, or is it all owners? And does it benefit the mission, abide with the mission statement? So even when my neighbors will say positive or negative things, I come back to the mission statement. Are we enhancing your value? Are we protecting the natural environment? Are we protecting our quality of life? And are we enhancing premier kind of residential area?
Okay, thank you, Brad. That was a very comprehensive response. Okay, Paul.
Yeah, I was a soccer coach for 25 years, and though I'm sure I made enemies, people didn't like me. The one thing that people said is I was fair, and that's I believe that's true. The fact is, though, I care a lot about my friends and I care about my neighbors. They will not dictate what I think for the good of Sunriver. Rather, it will be an argument for the common good. And I stand by that strongly, and I'm very good at that.
All right. And Juliana?
Gonna make a sad joke that I don't have friends in Sunriver, but that's just because my friends are all visitors. They don't yet. I do love my neighbors. Likewise, I think, I think of Sunriver as a whole. I think of it as a community. I think of it as a group of the luckiest people in the world who get to call that place home. And I wouldn't be swayed by personal views of, single homeowners, friends or neighbors, because, that's really not the point. I think Brad said it well. It's really about maintaining the best quality of life for the community as a whole. And so I don't see myself having any, problems making that distinction between the individuals that I care about, but the community as a whole and what is best for overall Sunriver.
Thank you. Rick?
Yes, thank you. I agree. When you have friends and neighbors and they have issues, and when you're on the board, you become the first target to get this resolved. You have to listen closely to both sides of an issue and decide what's best for the community as a whole. And I'm sure if you're thoughtful about it and your neighbors appreciate you, then there should be no problem in making the decisions that actually benefit not only the people who live next door, but the people who live here throughout. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Keith?
I've been listening, and I've heard some very good answers to that question. Listening is one of the things that I have practiced for a long while. I also practiced law for a long while. Spent a lot of time arbitrating cases, making decisions about factual disputes. As a board member, I'm one of 9. I listen. If I think a cause being presented to me has merit, I may talk to other board members and see if we are of like mind. But basically, I want to be sure that people who are owners and who are stakeholders in the work of the board know that we're doing the best that we can in the interests of this great place we call Sunriver.
Thank you, Keith. Okay. So the next question, we'll start with Paul, is it time to address water conservation measures?
I would have to rely on people who have greater knowledge on that front than I do. I mean, as I understand it, Sunriver is doing pretty well in regard to its capacity for water, particularly its aquastructures. In as much as it might relate to drought, however, I think that's a really salient question. I would have to, frankly, listen to others who know more about this than I do at this particular time. Is it time? It could be. I would certainly be interested in learning more about that and making that a very progressive issue for Sunriver if it's warranted.
Thank you. Juliana?
Same, I'm not a water expert, although I'm becoming one. My county is already fully in a drought now in California, and so we've had to cut back on many things. I don't think it's ever too late to start educating. And again, I think Oregon is just a few years behind California, unfortunately, with wildfires and drought. And there are simple things that we could at least start thinking about doing. I love the water pressure up there, but I feel guilty every time I take a shower in Sunriver, and I know that we could probably start at least thinking about ways to prepare mentally and physically the area for drought. And so again, I'd say it's never too early to start thinking about it and putting plans in place so that if and when it happens, the community is prepared.
Thank you. Rick?
Yes, hi. I don't think it's ever too soon to worry about conserving water. It's a great resource there. And I would like more data. I would like to know how many communities outside of Sunriver itself that we serve as well. And I know we have just changed to a different provider as far as our water goes. But I think it's a concern, and I think it needs to be looked at. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Keith?
Yeah, water is a very large and increasing problem across the state of Oregon. And I don't think that Sunriver is in any way immune. So we should be paying attention. And I hope that we are.
Okay, thank you, Keith. Brad?
I think we are blessed with our volcanic aquifers. That helps us at the moment, but the strategic issue or it really does need to be addressed. Obviously, I believe in global warming, it's happening. And we need to really keep looking at what can we do to, preserve our natural resources. That's what our mission statement says. But as Paul said, I'm relatively ignorant. We should all talk to Northwest Natural a little bit. They assure us we have unlimited capacity, blah, blah. But then we have other developers outside of Sunriver that want to continue to grow. So we should look at all of that and see how we can preserve what we have and use it wisely.
Okay, thank you. All right. Question about the increased jet and plane flights coming in and out of Sunriver. Can anything be done? Is it a concern of yours, Juliana?
That is not one that I knew about. So I'll have to educate myself more on the increased flights into Sunriver. obviously I would want the limit to be safe and something that everyone around us is comfortable with. And we would also need to think about noise ordinances and the flight path and how that not only is affecting quality of life for residents, but also wildlife, and making sure that it's something sustainable. So I would definitely need to educate myself more on that topic, but I would always be concerned about, again, quality of life and the surrounding environment.
Okay, thank you. Rick?
Yes, yeah, it's a concern to me. I don't, I would hate to think I moved out here so I could hear jets fly overhead. And many people who live close to airports, it's an extreme problem for them. I know that there's construction going on at the airport. I've been down there and looked at it. I know that the runway size has been increased. And I don't know to what extent the number of flights are going to be increased. And I think it is a concern. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Keith?
The airport is a great asset of Sunriver. It has been there from the beginning. And I think, well, there is a business about moving to a nuisance. I have a brother who was a fixed base operator, ran an airport in the Dalles and in Madras, and so am sensitive to the concerns of those who are in the aviation business. But at the same time, there does need to be some balance so that the activity at the airport does not become so large that it is demeaning to the rest of the aura of Sunriver.
Okay, thank you. Brad?
Over the past year, we've had several owners raise this question. One thought that the board had approved a beacon change, which would fly aircraft over their homes. That was not correct. Secondly, another thought that we were going to see huge commercial flights in and out of here, similar to Redmond. We've checked that out many, many times with the FAA and also the fixed base operator. The expansion of the airport was on the tarmac. It was not on the runway. It just gave them greater flexibility to park planes. The only thing it's a really good question.
Oh, Brad froze.
But I don't see that huge change. I do hear some stupid helicopter every once in a while flying overhead, and I wonder why they can't land like the planes do. But anyway, I don't know.
Bravo.
But it's a good question about data. Let's check it out.
Okay, thank you. Paul?
Yeah, I agree with the spirit of the question. I used to live under the flight path, and let me just say it's memorable. It's noticeable. And in regards to what Juliana said, in regard to noise ordinances, I think it's a relevant, salient point on this topic. Another thing is I've spent a lot of time outside in Sunriver, and I've been there while the elk were on the runway. And they get that green helicopter and they're able to humanely sequester the elk. It is something worth watching. It's very enjoyable, but I'm concerned about the access. We seem to be a bit primitive around the airport, especially as it relates to wildlife, and I would like to see that improved.
Thank you. And let's see, Juliana answered that question. Okay. Next question, and Rick will have this question first. What would you do to increase the transparency from the board?
Well, I think there's many ways we can do that. I think it's great that the board puts out an article in Sunriver Scene every month, but I think we could possibly have more meetings, short ones over Zoom, and like we're doing right here, so people can ask direct quick questions to the board. And I would, and also in saying this, I would suggest that people who want to know more what's going on in the board should attend a board meeting. I've attended a board meeting. It's very interesting to what goes on, and there's many ways to improve. I said Zoom. You could have a small forum where you meet face to face as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Brad?
I think what you're doing here is good. And I think we've already agreed with Sunriver U that we should be doing this kind of thing at least quarterly. I'm sorry, not a campaign quarterly, but a communication with the owners quarterly. You know, we have we have about 200 owners that are on our committees. I think we need to continue to encourage all of those people, because you might be surprised how much you can influence the board policy and even issues for owners to consider on ballots. But you know, again, over communication is a good thing. And the more we can over communicate, not only board with the owners, but owners among themselves. So part of the rules enforcement, you know, when you see something, you don't think it's right, pick up the phone, call Corey, call the chief, and call SROA. We just need to communicate more and keep our standards in a way that protects the ambiance of this place. It's over communication all the way up and down the line.
Thank you. Boy, you're getting good with 1 minute. Paul?
Hey, I've got a police officer here, you know.
I think the question itself presupposes that there is a lack of transparency. I'm not aware of that. I've served on many boards, and usually there's that accusation of lack of transparency. In my opinion, it is overblown, and it is often put out by people who are frankly cranks, and they just are going to say whatever they want to say, even if there's any value to it or not. Those people are a waste of time, and they pull us away from needed resources and work in order to maintain and improve this wonderful place.
Thank you. Juliana?
I would, you know, I really do like the minutes and the articles and the scene. I think the Sunriver scene is the best way to get information out to all of our owners. So if there is, I think to Paul's point, if there really is an issue with transparency, I think there could be even more, not just minutes, but more information. I know, Brad, you do a nice intro in that every month as well, but there could be more information there. And then I do like the ideas of a quarterly meeting, even if it's just a town hall Q&A to the board, so that people can get more direct interaction with the board members, but also maybe just get clarification on decisions that have been made or where we are in a certain process, just to make sure that they feel like they can really be heard and ask more direct questions. So I love that idea. I think now that everyone is mostly used to Zoom, it would be fairly easy to implement, and that could be a really nice way to get more communication going both ways.
Thank you. Oh, Brad? No, I lost my sequence. Is there someone who hasn't answered that question about transparency?
I think it might be Brad, because when I got done, you said, "Thank you, Brad." So maybe it is Brad.
I think Brad.
He spoke.
He spoke.
Would you like my 1 minute answer again, Gwen?
Yeah, I did like the 1 minute answer. I'm not going to give you another minute, though.
It's too fast.
I think I'm starting this next one with Brad.
Okay.
And the question is, would you support public transport to Bend and Redmond Airport?
To Bend and Redmond.
I think to Bend and
yeah.
to Redmond Airport.
Well, we, as you well know, Sunriver has worked with the county commissioners to get the Lapine Sunriver bus in place, and that's operating. We, through James Lewis, our general manager, we're encouraging extension of a bus between Sunriver and Bend, and I hope that happens. You know, again, these are monies that are state monies. It's funded through those intergovernmental programs. So would I favor it? Of course. We just have to figure out who pays for it, how we do it. But all the way to the airport, I don't know. I don't know what the volume would be like, and I don't know how much it would be used. Those would be the kinds of studies we'd have to do. Certainly between Bend and Sunriver and Lapine and Sunriver, it'll be very helpful to folks that want to work here. And I think that was the primary purpose of putting those services in, but over time, they'll involve a lot more people.
Thank you, Brad. Paul.
Yeah, my work with the Chamber of Commerce in Medford-Jackson County, one thing that I learned is that public transportation is always going to be underwritten. It just never pays for itself. So the benefits in particular to disabled people and people of lower means is extremely, extremely important. So on that front, I'm attracted to it in order to help those communities, as Brad mentioned, particularly by way of the labor force. Many times, low income housing, for example, is housed right next to public transit for reasons. They can just walk out and be able to not even have to own a car in order to get to work. And I was one of those people at one time. So that's very important to me. In regard to the airport, that is fantastic. I fly in and out of here regularly, well, at least I used to before COVID, and I would love to see it.
Thank you. Juliana?
I also would love to see that. My family flies into Redmond a couple times a year. I just flew out of there last week. Sometimes it's, if we don't drive to Sunriver and we fly, the only reason why we rent a car, quite frankly, is just getting from the airport to our house. Once we're here, I have a rule that it's bikes only. And so I think that's a fantastic idea. I also love the idea to Bend. I think if there was a bus to Bend, I would love to take it with my family from time to time. I'm really not enticed to get in a car once I'm in Sunriver. I think the other really important part is getting labor into Sunriver, people who want to do those jobs at the Shark or the resort, the restaurants. We're hard to get to, and it's part of the charm, but it also, we need to help people get to Sunriver who are helping us. So I love that idea.
Thank you. Rick?
Yes, I strongly support a bus line that would go to Bend and go to the airport. And I also support increase in public transportation. I think it is very, very helpful. Also, Amtrak does have a bus that goes down to Chemult. And there you can pick up Amtrak and ride it all the way back to Portland. But it's a 6-hour ride, so it's a long trip. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Keith? Yep.
Yeah. I'm in Joseph, and the telecommunications connection broke down here temporarily. I'm on my iPhone now.
Well,
Yeah, the question is a good one, and I would like to ask our staff, which I would take this opportunity to compliment, to look into what kind of ridership, what kind of needs would be met, how well this would fit in the transportation needs for reaching and departing from Sunriver.
Okay, thank you. The next question, we'll start with Paul. What are challenges, impacts, lessons learned, and opportunities for Sunriver in the wake of COVID? I'm going to repeat that. There's a lot of
please, yeah.
So basically, what have we learned from COVID? What opportunities for Sunriver? What challenges? What impacts? This Zoom meeting is a fine example. So,
yeah, what we've learned is that our property values went through the roof. So that's, and, you know, gotta like that. You know, this proposed improvement in telecommunication, I think this is a wake-up call for us. And as you know, we are named by Willamette Weekly, the Zoom capital of Oregon. And here we are. The improvement of our infrastructure as it relates to telecommunication, I think is essential. Want to see that continue greatly. So there's my short answer to that. And then Gwen, on the other front, in regard to public transportation, another thing would be the support of the proposed bike path from Baker Road to Lava Butte. That is important. It's not, you know, not for everyone, but with the evolution of e-bikes, for example, that can play a really good role in the public transportation issue. And it's a beautiful area. I ride there up to Lava Butte regularly. So I think we should support that as well.
Thank you, Paul. And Juliana?
Definitely internet and connectivity. I think we're going to continue to rely on it. One of the things that I called out in my application, and I really believe this, is more and more people are going to be working and living in Sunriver. Many companies, I know I'm kind of unique in the tech industry, but many have followed suit. They're letting their employees work from anywhere in the United States. A lot of them had to do that for COVID, and then people realized how awesome it was to live elsewhere, in specifically in the Pacific Northwest. So I think there's going to be a huge boom of people who are going to be in Sunriver more often, working from Sunriver and spending a lot more of their time there. So I think we do need to be prepared for the part-time residents who are maybe spending 10% of their time, could be upwards, 30-40% of their time. And with that, we're going to need a lot better internet access, more reliable internet, and just be prepared for the influx.
Thank you. And Rick?
Yes, I had wished before COVID-19 started that I would have bought stock in Zoom, because I would be rich right now. But COVID-19 has completely changed the way we do business, and I doubt if we'll return to our old practices again. My whole staff was able to work from home for the year that this has gone on, and we found ways to do business and actually improve ourselves. And as we go on, there'll be less and less need for office space. And I think businesses have found that it's more cost effective to have their employees work at home or work from here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Keith. Brad?
Well, I think it's, as everybody, I don't want to be redundant here, but certainly full-time residents have increased. They are increasing. Second home residents are increasing for all the reasons that Juliana referred to. People want out of the big cities. They want to live in a place that is good for their children, but it's got to have the telecommunications capabilities for educational purposes, as well as just communicating with the outside and businesses on the outside. I think we've learned as a staff, or I think the staff has learned, to be more innovative and creative, even in the midst of COVID. The worst part of it, we were still admitting 500 owners per session, or owner guests per session to the Shark. We've learned how to modify our rules and change them, and yet comply with the governor's orders. And we've also, I think, just have an overall attitude that this is not going to change. People are going to continue they may continue to fly internationally at some point in the future, but certainly not for the next few years. And we're just going to have to continue to think about, how do we maintain what we have, which is the wonderful place called Sunriver, and yet also deal with visitors.
Okay, thank you. Next question, we'll start with Juliana. Given where SROA is now, what will be the most pressing issue for the SROA board in the next 3 years?
Gosh, that one's hard. I would say, I think there's going to be a few pressing issues, and one is like very real, and I think one would be nice to have. I do think the fire and the drought is a real issue that the city needs to be prepared for. And obviously, because there could be catastrophic consequences if we're not. Other things I've heard mentioned in one of the board meetings I attended, which I think is a great point, is a lot of the building and design work regulations is all around building new homes, and almost all the homes are built. And we are now seeing a wave, and I know there's quite a few on my street, of remodels and or extensions. And so I think just from a practical standpoint, we're going to need to make that process more seamless and put some work around prepping for the wave of not new construction, but renovated construction. So I think in the short term, those are probably the main things facing the board.
Thank you. And my clock is striking 5. So we've been, I'm just letting everyone know that we're coming into our last half hour. This has been a really beneficial time. And we will go on to Rick. And what do you see as the most pressing issue in the next 3 years for the board?
Yes, I think one issue they have to look at, like all areas in the United States, especially in this state, there's overcrowding like crazy. Although Sunriver, there won't be many new homes built here. We have to maintain Sunriver as a place where our guests and the people who live here full time can have access to all the services here without being overcrowded. I would also, I think we need to grow as far as services that we provide here. And some of the services that weren't in Sunriver proper that were in the business park due to COVID-19 have closed right now. So I think preventing overcrowding and providing more services will be something that the board will have to look at in the next few years. Thank you.
Thank you. Keith?
My driving interest is in telecommunications because I think the demands being placed on that system are going to be continually increasing, and making that the best bargain that we can get for Sunriver has me on the side of ownership of the system by us, the owners. Ben Broadband is our current major provider, and we are negotiating with them. If we sign a contract with them, they will be our provider for the next 15 years, probably. And my personal preference that I've expressed strongly on the telecommunications task force is that we do basically what has been done in Moffitt. That is, have the system owned by the city, but have competitive providers come in and make the connections using the city-owned fiber, or I would hope in the future, Sunriver ownership fiber. So that's the big one. And keeping Sunriver as it is.
In it, dear. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Sorry.
Brad?
Well, let me build on Keith's last sentence. I think it's really important we do determine what do we want Sunriver to look like 50 years from now? You know, John Gray started this thing as one of the developers, and he included a mix of home sizes, home owners, a community that really would serve the public good, and be a great place for people to go, both as full-time as well as part-time residents. So the design review process, which I think we're about to begin in August, not only deals with those short-term issues like hot tubs and how do we simplify that and yet maintain our standards, but also where do we want the community to look 50 years from now? Do we want to continue to allow 5,000 foot homes in the middle of 2,800 square foot homes on a circle? I don't know. Those are issues that the design committee and the review need to look at, and the owners need to eventually decide. But to me, that's the first issue. The fire safety mitigation, of course, we need to do everything we possibly can, even though, you know, there are outside forces outside of Sunriver that are huge. But
Okay.
what within Sunriver?
Brad?
Okay, I'll shut up now.
That's a big question, I think. Huh,
I think Brad was taking some of my time. That's fine.
we're
That's-
starting to.
You know, to answer that question, I don't know what is the most important issue in the next 3 years. It would be, I don't know if anyone knows. Here's my fear is in regard to potential drought and fire abatement. We have no, it could be that is the linchpin, where in regard to telecommunications, which is very important, in fact, essential. But if we have fire issues here, the other stuff goes by the wayside. For me, property value is always important. It's at the top of the list. And with property value falls so many other things. So I hope it's not fire abatement. I fear it may well be.
Okay. This is one question that just came through. Think about what your personal plans are. As we look at the board for the next 3 years, what are your plans? How long do you see yourself staying in Sunriver? And we'll start with Rick.
Well, as far as personal plans go, we just moved here, and it was a lot of work to pack up these boxes, and I don't plan to move again and pack up these boxes for a long, long time. So I plan to be here for a long time, and I plan to take part in what goes on here and really make this my home. Thank you.
Hey, Rick. Keith?
Our plan is to spend as much time at Sunriver as our other obligations will permit. I would like to continue to be involved with the board to realize some of the potential that I think exists for Sunriver. And again, to get on that horse. Telecommunications and the need for the best service that we can provide for our owners at the least cost, best service, least cost.
Thank you. Brad?
Yeah, I think I would like to stay in Sunriver and own property in Sunriver. We currently have a home. It's magnificent. Like Paul said, property values are amazing. So who knows? But I want to continue to be an owner in some way, shape, or form in Sunriver and continue to be on the board and influence policy.
Okay. Paul?
Yeah, like I said earlier, we're like the squirrels. We don't leave. We're here year round. And we love it. We have no plans on leaving. We have plans on staying here. I mean, oftentimes in the evening, outside, you go outside and I'll say, Sandy, do you hear that? And she'll say, what? And I say, exactly. I mean, you don't hear anything. even on busy weekends, you don't really hear anything, and holiday weekends. And the weather's beautiful. There's nothing like the sunsets here. The air is so clean. So many great opportunities. So yeah, we're here for a long time.
Okay, and Juliana?
Thank you. Sorry, my son had come in asking for V-Bucks, so I had to mute myself. Like I said, my husband and I plan to retire there. Our family friends who've owned a house in Sunriver for 30 years split their time between California and Sunriver, and so we're trying to model our life after theirs. Realistically, we probably have 12 years. We don't want to take our kids out of the school district they're in. So number 3's got to graduate from high school, and then we'll be up there full time. So those are our plans, assuming I don't have to kick my parents out of the house if they move in it before me. But this is our dream spot. So we hope to be there for the rest of our lives.
Okay. Another question that's come through, and this is for Keith, is first. What, if any, changes would you make to the board election process that would increase interest and accessibility for potential candidates?
Service on this board is really a great privilege and an honor. It does come with responsibilities, but it has benefits that far outweigh the negatives that naturally accompany board service. You get to know an outstanding group of people who are dedicated to this place. And if that was more widely known, I think we would have much more competition for these few slots on the Sunriver board.
Thank you, Keith. Brad?
Yeah, I think we've worked very hard in the last few years, being very transparent and being very objective, and trying to deal with facts and data. I am privileged to be associated with the people that are on the board. They're very professional. They're very thoughtful. They're non-emotional. They're looking out for the standards of Sunriver and trying to make it a better place. So again, as Keith said, it's a major obligations. I think the average board member spends about 15 hours a week on various activities. And but there's great rewards because you really understand what's going on and you can hopefully impact the future.
Thank you. Paul?
Yeah, this is something that was brought up on the side during the Covenants Committee on how to bring about more work or more people into the board and other parts of Sunriver. And my answer to that was to go to human nature, and that is to say, what is the benefit to the individual? And to echo what Brad said, great personal satisfaction of working with high-level people. And then 2, one of the complaints that I hear about here in Sunriver is that there are many transplants here. And because of that, the social network is not as strong as what people had before they came here. And so as a result, by running for the board, related committees such as the Covenants Committee, you get to meet more people than you might otherwise get to meet and improve your social network.
Okay, thank you. Juliana?
You know, I just went through the process and I have to say, I thought it was very accessible. You know, there were many things in the scene and emails requesting people, and I thought very sincerely to raise their hands. I read the first one. I thought, interesting. I read it again. I said to my husband, I think I'm going to do this. He said, of course you are. You're like Sunriver's biggest fan. But I thought that was just really encouraging. And then, you know, there are two options. If you don't want to go through the formal process of an application and interviews, you just need 100 signatures. You need to walk around your neighborhood and plead your cause. So I actually think the board did an amazing job. I actually don't know how many people applied versus how many were selected as nominees. But I do think that in general, I thought they did a really nice job of getting people excited about the opportunity.
Okay. Rick?
I think the election process was new to me, and I'm kind of excited about it. You know, any process you go through that is too easy, you'll find that it isn't rewarding. And I can see it would be a real honor to be on the board. And already through this process, I've met six more folks, six really interesting people to talk to, and I've learned how to talk for 1 minute or less too. Thank you.
Thank you.
But Brad hasn't.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay. Next question, which we'll start with Brad. Do you support, okay, right now, SROA board does not have term limits. Do you support term limits? Why or why not?
I don't know. It seems to me the owners determine that. If a board member is abusive or ignorant or working against the interests of the owners, they get rid of him. I don't know. I mean, we get so much money, you know, in these volunteer positions. Everybody wants to keep them, but you know, I think term limits to me don't mean much. Again, if a board becomes cliquish, if a board no longer listens to the owners, then, well, you don't vote for those guys, and you look for people with new voices and new attitudes that are listening and open and objective and working for the interests of all owners. So again, if we were talking politics, we're not. We're talking about standards. We're talking about policies that add to property value and the natural environment and all the things that our mission statement says.
Okay, thank you. Paul?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a perennial question. On the downside, I would say that you limit institutional knowledge. I'll just say that Brad and Keith they have a level of institutional knowledge that is really important to Sunriver. Without that, you get into trouble pretty quickly. So I wouldn't want to see that go away. So I think in regard to institutional knowledge, I would not support it, given how important that is. And as Brad said, particularly not in a political position.
Juliana?
I actually thought there was a maximum of 2 3-year terms, but maybe I misread that somewhere. I think, you know, if people want to do it and they're raising their hand to volunteer and they're elected to do it and the community thinks they're doing a good job, I don't see there being a need for term limits. Selfishly, I hope to live at least 40 more years. And so if I was lucky enough to get on the board, I wouldn't want to have to stop maybe too soon. But I do think that I think that the continuity is important. And when you have a group that is constantly refreshing itself, it takes a long time to get a new group jamming together and learning how to work together. And so I just don't think there's a need at this point for any kind of limits on the terms.
Thank you. And Rick?
Yeah, you know, this is an interesting question. It was mentioned if this was politics, national politics, for sure, I would say, yeah, there ought to be term limits. But it appears to me the board is functioning quite well as it is right now. And I don't think it necessarily has to be changed. the knowledge that you have there is great. I mean, and it's something to keep. So as far as changing, no, I wouldn't change it.
Thank you, Rick. And Keith?
I was president of the Maryhill Museum of Art in Goldendale for, well, I was on there for a long time. But one of the things I did was bring term limits to the Maryhill Museum of Art. 9 years was the maximum. And that became necessary for a variety of reasons. I recently completed some time on the OPB board, maximum term there, 9 years. We have a limiting factor in that we have a 3-year term and then must run for re-election if we want to be on the board, continue to be on the board. So I think that helps assure that there is some more frequent turnover. While this is not a particularly onerous assignment, it is an assignment that does require some extra time and attention to stay on the board. So I don't see an immediate need for a term limit for Sunriver.
Okay, thank you. We have a specific water question here. Do your best with this. But remember, I'm not asking these questions. They're coming from our members who are our homeowners who are listening in. And this one is a very specific one. How can the board encourage the water company to treat effluent water to meet the EPA standards used to irrigate golf courses?
Oh,
Gwen, do you mind repeating that question, Gwen?
Yeah.
For all of us? Okay.
I'll repeat it, but we'll start with Paul. How can the board encourage the water company to treat effluent water to meet EPA standards used to irrigate golf courses?
wow. Okay, so I might be understanding this right, or maybe wrong. Is if it's the water that's coming off of golf courses, that if that's the EPA standard that they're talking about, there are a lot of chemicals used in the golf industry. I would be interested in I had an assistant coach who was the head groomsman, or whatever the term is, for a golf course. He said you'd be stunned by how many chemicals are used to keep that going. With that being said, I would be interested in looking at ways of cleaning up that runoff and that captured water, because it's not good. And I think at this level, with our level of technology and science, we should be able to change that around to the point where I would like to see a place around here near one of the golf courses stocked for children, for teens, as mentioned earlier, Juliana, in regard to stuff for teens. Okay.
Thank you, Juliana.
This is certainly something I would need to educate myself more on. I am a fan of the EPA. And so I would love to learn more about the standards and things that they would require or recommend around golf courses. We obviously have 2 beautiful courses right through the middle of Sunriver. And so it's not that it doesn't impact everyone, whether you golf or not. As Paul said, that runoff from the courses, I would imagine, affects most of the community. So it's definitely something that I would love to learn more about and work with the board and the resort to make sure that we're all comfortable with what was happening.
Thank you, Rick.
Yes, hi. I've done a lot of work in wastewater and water treatment as well. And I wonder if the question is referring to the water that is used to irrigate the golf course. I'm not sure of the question exactly, but of course that will not be the same standard as your drinking water. Mm-hmm. So, and there's a reason for that. It's potable water that's used from a different source. If we walk around the North Pole, you'll see a holding pond right there. So there'd have to be vast changes made to make that the same standard as the water you drink. I'll just say that. Thank you.
Fair enough. Thank you. Keith?
I'd like to pick up the telephone and call James Lewis. He is the product of a very successful search process for a new general manager. And I would ask James, who we should be calling with DEQ, EPA, or Water Resources Department to answer that question.
Okay, and Brad?
Yeah, I think as Rick said a few minutes ago, I think the question deals with the after primary and secondary treatment has occurred at the sewage treatment plant. Some of the water is pumped over to these holding ponds for watering the golf course, which is a different standard than drinking water that we use. I think some owners, every once in a while, you get a little, in the middle of August, a little smell from some of those ponds, and that causes these kinds of questions, and rightly so. The resort manages, obviously, the golf course. It's not SROA. But as Keith said, there's experts that are constantly monitoring this, and it'll be a curiosity. Also, part of it is the way we have 20,000 visitors in the summer versus 4,000 or 5,000 in the winter. Some of the water usage, it has something to do, up there. I can't even remember the name of it, but as you cross over the rail tracks, the reservoir, the pond up there, again, it's balancing the demand for water. Again, I'm talking like an ignorant fool here, so I need to get somebody better qualified than me to answer this question.
Fair answer. Okay. I just want to take a minute here. We're down to the last, I'm looking at a different clock. It's okay. We're
7 minutes.
We're coming to an end, and Sunriver U has been the sponsor for this candidate forum. I want to thank all the candidates who attended and have followed our guidelines and have been so easy to work with through this process. Just a fun factoid, you have answered 15 different questions from our residents or owners who have participated, and they have had great feedback from all of you. And spontaneous questions, you didn't have a chance to do any research. And wow, if you didn't do a great job, then well done. This recording from today's session will be available on YouTube through Sunriver U Candidates Forum. And anybody who is listening now, tell your neighbors, tell your friends. If they missed it today, it's not too late to learn more about our candidates, and you can go watch this forum. On that note, I want to sign off for today. I really want to thank each of you for being here. What a great opportunity it's been for all of us to learn more about you and your willingness to serve in our community and keep it strong and healthy and vital as we go into the next 3 years. So thank you.
Gwen, thank you. You did a great job.
Oh, thank you
very much.
Thanks, Gwen.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Gwen. And a thank you to the Owner Enrichment Committee for the work that they have done in putting together Sunriver U.
Okay, thank you, Keith. And
Thank
we are
you.
signing off now.